Welcome to Utah Stories. So, we've been examining for a long time the failure of homelessness in homeless policy in Salt Lake City and really across the United States on this program for the last 2 years. And we've had a lot of, I'd say, negative examples, how to do it wrong. But on today's program, we want to show how it is done right. How there are a lot of organizations out there that really do an amazing job at transforming the lives of homeless people, creating resource centers that are assets to the neighborhoods that they reside in, and really are stellar examples for producing a type of place that is not a sticky trap as you find so many homeless resource centers to be, or public housing, which we just talked about a few minutes ago, to be, but really help people gain the dignity through work, through ownership in a community, give them the hand up rather than the hand out that so many organizations aspire to do. So before we get started with those clips from the prior episodes, I want to show you a recent homeless person we interviewed and just try to gain for some of our viewers, especially some of the people who like to give negative comments on Instagram, a reason as to why we should be paying more attention to this subject and have a little bit of compassion for those who are in our homeless community. Let's play the first clip right now.
When they baited us last Friday, I think it was Thursday or Friday, they gave me 20 minutes to pack up everything, and she said, it shouldn't take you that long. I said, ma'am, you go pack up your entire home in 20 minutes.
Do you think that you avoid getting abated up here more than some of the camps in the city?
Yes, because there may be more traffic, but there's less population, it's not as crazy like up here as it is. I think it's safer for me as far as like crime and stuff goes. I can see people coming. Or nobody wants to come up here onto the mountain, and I don't want to feel like I have to be camping constantly just to be safe. But I asked the officers what their idea of a segregated area for safe camping to where they won't bother us, and they said we haven't heard any news about anything like that. And I was misinformed, I suppose, but well, you tell me I can't stay here. Do you know where I can stay? And they just said, and they looked at the ground. They didn't even have any idea what to tell me. I know what I can't do, but what can I do? I ask people all the time. I said, you know what? I don't need help across the crosswalk. Just point me in the direction of it, because I am capable. Some people are not. Some people are out here by choice. Some people are not. And I'm 33 with 3 kids. I don't want to want a roof over my head.
How did you end up out here?
I put myself in a treatment 2 years ago, and I got out of it and just had no direction or nowhere to go. They only offer support and help to their graduates. I, however, did not walk out of the program. I just didn't graduate outpatient. They don't help you. The sober living, they make you just, get on out of there. But the VOA came a few weeks ago. I want to say it was like about 2 weeks ago, and they gave me a paper and they said, well, good news is you're almost chronic, and we can help you. And I said, I don't check any of your boxes. I'm not a veteran.
Wait, you're almost chronic?
Yeah, I'm almost a full year to where they can even consider me as an option.
Chronically homeless?
I feel like, why aren't they helping people from becoming homeless? Why are we waiting until they're already an issue and already... Because some people, if I was a complete mental case, for lack of better words, I wouldn't be able to handle this. Some of the people that are snubbing their nose down at us could not handle this for one day. There's no way. I'm by no means a Barbie doll, but it's hard. I'm out here painting my toenails just to feel normal.
Are you from Utah originally?
No.
How did you end up out here?
So back in 2015, my, at the time, youngest diagnosed with cancer. And so we went to...
Sorry.
But he's almost... So this was when he was almost 8 years old. He's 8 years old now, guys. He's cured. He's amazing. Like, so thankful, but... more help for... I mean, I'm by no means complaining, but there's more help for him than there is... Because they just look at me like I'm the creator of my own problems. And I don't feel like that's fair, because I don't have, like, parents to go stay with, you know? Just...
Yeah, that's just one example of one of the people we've spoken to. Crystal, as you saw, was a mother of a few children. She couldn't be with her children. She obviously has made some poor decisions. She's very likely still using drugs. She says that basically everybody out there is using drugs. But does that mean she doesn't deserve a second chance? Does that mean she should not have any place to live or stay? She basically just wants to know where she can go to camp so she can get back on her feet to get a job. That's what she's trying to find out. And now we want to help answer that question for Crystal by providing some of the best homeless resources that are out there that we've come across. And I want to start by telling you about Carol Hollowell and Switchpoint. So Switchpoint was started by Carol Hollowell when she just did something very simple. She saw a man on the side of the road who was an old man who was in need, and she just asked him, "What do you need?" A very simple question. And he said, "How about a cup of coffee?" And so she actually took him in and gave him a cup of coffee and said, "What else do you need?" And he said, "Well, I don't have an ID, and I don't have a way of collecting my Social Security." So she helped him get an ID, she helped him get his Social Security check, and then she helped him get into an apartment, and she helped him get off the streets. She did that for one man, starting with a cup of coffee, and through that one simple, act of compassion, she started an organization called Switchpoint.
And when you're in big cities and you're trying to deal with, hundreds at a time, it makes it even harder. Right? I really think that there should be a lot more help on the mental illness side, where we have shelters and housing that is only for that, because you're dealing with so much more trauma, and then that trauma can trigger a mental illness cycle. So we are lacking big time, in our state. And I think actually the whole nation's homeless system is lacking in this mental illness help. Back in the 80s when they disbanded all of the institutions, right? And okay, can't have that anymore. One flew over the cuckoo's nest all over, right? What happened to them? They were all let out to the streets. And how frustrating and sick and wrong was that? They thought they were doing the right thing, but there were no resources. It was a broken system. Yes, I agree with how it was. But now you have these people with severe mental illness who now are not getting their meds. They're not getting any support. They're being taken advantage of. They're being harmed, significantly harmed, and it just exploded our homeless population in the United States. That's the other big things that we did since the last time we talked is we started purchasing older hotels and then converting them into studio apartments. And our two big ones here in Salt Lake have collectively, they will have housed over 250 people right off the streets. And we're focusing right now in Salt Lake on the seniors and veterans because, to me, they're the most vulnerable. And, I kind of get on a soapbox and sometimes I, drop a lot of F-bombs on it because it really makes me disgusted to think, here's people that have an income. It's not very big. It's Social Security, maybe disability, but they can't afford to live anywhere. So where's that deeply affordable housing? And you did a great, show back in March on affordable housing. But this deeply affordable is $450 a month rent, and it includes everything. It includes their utilities, their cable, their internet, and that allows somebody who's making less than $800 a month they're sustainable.
And that's in Salt Lake.
That's in
County,
Salt Lake.
or-
So both of them are on North Temple, and we'll open Monday. We're opening up that second one to move another 100 people in.
Oh,
So
what great timing!
Yeah.
They're closing the overflow shelters.
we closed overflow last week. So I've done a lot of moving in the last couple weeks. So we shut down the Mill Creek overflow that we were operating, and then a lot of those same clients will be moving into Fair Park.
Oh, that's great!
Yeah.
Wow, what great news!
Yeah.
So, is the state now giving you a lot more autonomy and control over your own policies, or are they coming in and telling you how you got to do it?
There's still a lot of regulation, for sure, that best practices, and that has air quotes around that, best practices that come from our federal government that are imposed upon providers, right? And that's a flow through to the states. And it gets a little discouraging. Okay, no, it gets a lot discouraging because I think a lot of times these policies are made with people who've never done boots on ground.
Yeah.
They've actually never got their fingers dirty, right? And so it's discouraging to me because I'm thinking that's like the housing first. It doesn't work if you don't provide the supportive services that go with it, if there's not accountability. I think the two big things that us and the Other Side Academy do really well is that opportunity with accountability. And all of us, if you're a parent, all of us work better, especially our kids, right, with accountability and structure.
Mm-hmm.
They know what to expect, and so they start to behave better. When there is chaos, what do we see? We see San Francisco. We see Portland, Oregon. Any of these big cities have completely lost control over their homeless because there's been entitlement and absolutely zero accountability.
So that was Carol Hollowell. And as you can see, that she created a really excellent model for deeply affordable housing and permanent supportive housing. And she has facilities now in several places in Utah. I believe they have 5 or 6 facilities. And the organization, again, is called Switchpoint. And Carol and her organization strongly believe in providing not just a place, a roof over the heads of the people that they help out, but also a community of support where the people in that community are all overcoming their problems together, and all of the workers in the facility are the executives of the organization. For example, I know Carol goes in every day and works with homeless people, gets to know their stories, gets to know them, gets to know what they can do to help them more. It's not a lockdown prison type facility like some of these resource centers are. They let people come in and out as if they're tenants. It's a warm, inviting environment, and it's awesome. It's just really great what she's doing. And so let's move on to our next clip. And our next one is, I just have to scroll down, is Moe Egan from the Other Side Academy. We also interviewed David Droscher, who's the executive director there, and Joseph Grenny, who's the founder of...
And I'll go back, and that culture that I grew up in, I always tell people my uncle's contribution for me was in 4th grade when he taught me how to roll weed, smoke weed, and sell weed. And that's what I did. I went to Webster Elementary in 3rd, 4th grade in East Oakland, and I had a bag of joints rolled up, and that's what I did. I sold them.
4th grade.
4th grade. But what people don't understand is that my peers, the kids in the schools, were buying those joints. I'm selling weed in 4th grade, and they're buying it. Yeah. And then, the security guy comes in the bathroom. I get caught. I go to the principal's office, and then I get sent home. And this is where the messaging got sent to me. When I walked in the door, kind of expecting some kind of reprimand or something, there was no reprimand. And I started processing that. And as a 4th grade kid, I'm thinking, you know what? I want to be able to do whatever I want to do. Nobody's really concerned about if I'm going out there getting in trouble or whatever. And I took that to some places that I wouldn't wish on anybody. It's not a surprise that I became a lifelong alcoholic and drug addict, and it just took me to some places I wouldn't wish on anybody. And there were so many times where I said, you know what, I know this is not what God meant for me. And I said, you know what, I could beat this. You know, somewhere along the line, I became a pretty decent athlete, and I thought that I could make, you know, the parallel. If I can do this in sports and succeed, then I could do this, kind of sort of white knuckle it. And so my very first program was a 2-week outpatient. And it just didn't work. I said, but I had all hopes for it. And I literally convinced myself that this little 2-week outpatient is going to be the cure. And it didn't work. And so I went back on, relapse for, 6 months, a year, whatever. And I said, you know what? Let me step my game up. Let me go to a 30-day program. That didn't work. I tried the 30 to 60 and 90-day program. And I said, you know what? I graduated from all 6 of those programs. But at the end of it, I always have something in my gut that said, you know what? You're going to go back out and fail. Couldn't quite put my finger on it. Later on, I was able to figure out why. But in San Francisco's Tenderloin District, I resigned to be the best drug addict, alcoholic, criminal I can be. Because I said, you know what? I'm not going to put myself through that again, another program, because I know what the outcome is going to be. And it's been the outcome every time. And it's me relapsing and failing.
Was this in your 20s?
It was throughout my 20s and 30s.
Okay.
And I said, you know what? I've been smoking drugs and drinking alcohol for over 20 years. And you expect me to go to a 30, 60, 90-day program, and at the end, oh, you're good. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? But that's a model that we continue, even to this day, over and over and over again. And I know that the judges, they got to be getting tired of this. Seeing the same person. Okay, 30 days, let's try the 60-day, let's try the 90-day program, and none of it's working. That's the model that exists today. Now, while I was in my addiction, I worked for a person in San Francisco that was very good friends and a supporter of a place called Delancey Street, which is right there is one of the number one successful rehabs in the world. And he kept saying, hey, I know you're coming back to the office and sleeping in the office. I know you're homeless. Go to this place called Delancey Street. It's a 2-year program. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't sit down for 2 days, let alone 2 years. In jail, facing new charges. That seed, he planted that seed. In jail, facing new charges. I wrote a letter to a place called Delancey Street. And they came and they interviewed me and they accepted me. And I knew right away, this is something different. Because as soon as I showed up, this was a place that actually expected something from me. And it didn't hurt either that guys that I used to run the streets with and do drugs and alcohol with and crimes, when I got there, they were there. And I used to always wonder, where'd these guys go, right? They were there 2-3 years, and they were now, senior members in the community, and they were staff. And, these guys used to rob me on the streets. So I said, if they could do it, I could do it. And they stepped to me and they said, hey, Mo, congratulations, man. You don't have to be a drug addict anymore. You don't have to be an alcoholic. You don't have to be a criminal anymore. Here's your shot. So
that was Moe Egan. I mean, what an inspiring guy to talk to turn a life around that you could say, because it was intergenerational poverty he was faced with, to turn his life around and set out on a new path, different from his mother and father, different from his siblings. He had 7 siblings from 7 different fathers. But he decided that he wanted to get out of prison, get off the streets, and you can see what an incredible model the Other Side Academy, well, Delancey Street first in San Francisco, then the Other Side Academy in Salt Lake City was for him. So the next clip I want to play for you is a place called the In Between, and it's operated as a respite hospice care facility for the homeless folks who were either suffering from debilitating illnesses or terminal illnesses. It's a place where they can get care that's something in between the hospital and the streets, because oftentimes if homeless people, for example, suffer severe frostbite like we had last winter, they're going to go right back to the streets, even if they had to have a bunch of toes amputated or their feet amputated. The in-between provides a respite for homeless people who were admitted into hospitals or who perhaps have terminal illnesses. And I want to show you a clip from my interview with Jillian Olmstead.
That's a great question. I have no idea because the cost of a night at the in-between is, this past year was less than $100, but we were really working on a tighter budget. It should probably be between $115 and $150, depending on if they're end of life or like short-term respite stays, and with a much higher outcome. So you think about using the emergency room as your primary care doctor, very high cost and very low outcome, because you might go in there and there's just a Band-Aid put on your disease or your situation. You're going to go back out to the street and you're probably going to come back a couple weeks later because you didn't get better or your medications were taken.
Yeah, and that's such a common problem where you find people going into the homeless resource centers and they'll say no medication allowed, and I'm like, I find that hard to believe. I've tried to ask that question to a lot of the administrators there, and they say, no, we allow medication. We just find people take pill bottles and put illegal drugs inside of them.
Oh, I see.
And so they're very wary of that. Do you have any kind of problems with drug use at your facilities? Do you run into that once in a while?
There's some. When someone comes into the in-between, we do drug test them, not to prevent them from coming into our program, but to see where they're at. Do they need to go to detox? Do they need to go to a rehab before they can come to the in-between? And we go through all of their medications, make sure they have prescriptions for all of them, make sure the pills in the bottle match the prescription. And usually everybody's pretty understanding. I think a lot of times that's not because someone wants to abuse drugs. It's because that's how they're controlling their pain, because they can't get prescribed proper medication anymore.
Yeah.
So we're very cognizant of that and know that we need to figure out how to provide the proper supports to them, because taking away their street medicine with no other option is not the best thing either.
Yeah. And it sounds like the nurses there and the staff are really respectful of people wanting to look good and just providing basic dignity. In this same article, it describes a woman named Patty Larson, who she's got stage 4 lung cancer when she entered the facility. And in her photo, she was looking very bad, very thin. Her face was drooping. Her hair was slicked back tight. Blank expression, mouth agape. Says today her face is fuller and often smiling. Her nails are painted hot pink. She lets her thick gray hair down. And so she was given 6 weeks to live a year and a half ago at your facility.
Yep.
So she lived a lot longer. How long did Patty
So
live?
she's probably going to be one of our best miracles that we've had in a long time. So when we brought Patty into the facility, there were a lot of people in the community that said, good luck with her. She's difficult. She'll cause you lots of problems. She actually got discharged for breaking house rules, came back, was ready to, receive the help that we could give her. She just found out last week that she is in remission.
Wow.
And she also just qualified for the New Choices waiver, which I think we talked a little bit about that. We're not able to bill Medicaid yet unless someone is on New Choices waiver. And that person would have to be with us for a full year before they can apply. And that's really rare, right? Our mission is short-term medical respite stays or end of life. So our average stay is way less than a year. But we applied. It got rejected a couple of times. She finally got it, which means she will now be funded for the rest of her life. She can either go to an assisted living facility. She can go to an apartment. She could go back to a home if she had it. She does not. But she's actually looking at some places where other people from the in-between are living, because she would like to go where there's people that she knows. So she's very healthy, and then now she's going to be housed. So
it's just amazing.
We're really excited for that.
And I think one key component that you have in common with the other success stories, Switchpoint, the Other Side Academy, is you insist people have a job, that they take ownership in the facility, and if they don't have a job off-site, that they actually work in the facility. What do those jobs look like?
They really vary. So we have people that are helping our facilities manager, so that could be leaf blowing or mowing the lawn. Again, we're housing individuals who are dealing with the medical crisis. We have a lot of amputees. We have a lot of people that don't feel well, so we want to meet them where they are. So can it be as simple as wiping down the handrails, which was a very common activity during COVID, or wiping down dining room tables, or maybe wheeling someone out to the patio because they want to go and smoke, but they can't wheel themselves out. So a variety of different things.
And so Ty Bellamy runs a nonprofit called Black Lives for Humanity, and she passes out food to homeless people. If they don't have their tent, they don't have their sleeping bag, if it was stolen, as you see in the reel we have on Instagram right now, she'll find them a tent and a sleeping bag. She'll get them hooked up, and she'll make sure that they live.
I'm not asking you to shake hands and hug people if you don't feel comfortable, but come out and look at these encampments and walk up and go, you know what? They need more trash cans here. Let me get some trash cans here. And we're going to need a trash route to make sure that we can get these trashes empty. So let me go ahead and let me do this. Actually, these guys want to go to work, but they can't get their stuff. So why don't we at least give them a sanctioned camp? Let's go over here to, I even said, like, the Egan Center's got this big old wall. I'm like, why can't we build the lockers like the Amazon lockers or something on the back of this empty building? Give them large enough so they can put a backpack or two in there or whatever. But if we spent the money right that we could have resolved this. At least I was saying, take these funds. Don't keep giving additional funds. They're able to pay their bills and support their families. Take these additional funds and put it into our community that's struggling. If you go talk to these guys, Rich, they are plumbers and HVAC specialists and general contractors and construction workers and carpenters and masons. These guys are very talented. Some of them have built little tiny homes out there for themselves and just had them knocked down by the health department. But take some of this money and put it into them. Okay, so you used to do plumbing, and what happened? Okay, so you went through a hard time, went through a divorce, your license is expired, so we need to get you back into plumbing school so that you can get your license renewed. Here's the money for this. I'm going to contact the plumbing school. I'm going to send them the funds. We're going to get you back in. Now, I want you to come around to these buildings with me because we got a whole crew of y'all. We're going to go to all these dilapidated buildings, and we're going to have you check for asbestos because that's what you used to do, or we trained you how to do it. You're going to do the plumbing. You're going to do the electrical, da-da-da-da-da. And now it's sweat equity. But you're paying them also to go in and to revamp these old buildings, because now guess what? Now they've just contributed to their own housing, right?
Yeah.
And so then when they're done doing all these buildings, now they can go and they can apply for jobs at Wadman Construction or Layton Construction or Oakland. Now you've helped them get back on their feet. Now they've picked up their skills. Their licenses are renewed. Now they're employable. They're clean and sober, because a lot of them will say, and I wanted to start a landscaping business, and I still do. And they said, Ty, we'll get clean for you. We'll get clean for you. I use because I'm bored. I'm used because I'm depressed. And that's why a lot of them will come out and do outreach with me to other camps.
Yeah.
This is my thing right now.
Yeah.
But I do work intermittently. My thing is, when I go to work, I'm getting phone calls. Ty, there's an abatement. Ty, the police are here. Ty. Someone got hurt. They need a ride to the hospital. You know what I mean? Ty, remember I have court. And I'm like, oh my God, you have video court and you're supposed to do it on my phone. And you know what I mean? And I hate to say this, but it was getting in the way.
Yeah.
And so I worked really hard. I worked overtime. I saved my money. And when I had a good couple of months of money saved up, I said, you know what, I can't do this right now. You know what I mean? Because people need me.
We'll do another episode where we talk more about the interviews that we're going out and doing. He's responsible for a bunch of really awesome recent interviews we've done that we're going to show in the coming weeks on our Instagram feed and on our YouTube channel. So with that, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting Utah Stories, the voice of local Utah. And we will see you next time.